Today at Davos, RED, which is the AIDS organization founded by Bono and Bobby Schreiber, they're going to make an announcement that the Gates Foundation will match up to $50 million any funds raised to fight AIDS. Could you describe your relationship with RED and why you think this is so important?
Well, RED has been a fantastic success. Not only has it raised the $350 million that goes to buy AIDS medicines and keeps lots of people alive, it's been a vehicle to remind people about the fight against HIV and the progress we're making. Mm-hmm. And Bono and Bobby and the team they built have gone to a lot of the top brands in the world and done very creative products. They did a big art auction, and they're very careful about who they partner with and making sure they're getting the right level of donation. And so the recommitment after a decade of success to that, we were pleased to have the association and hopefully boost the cause with our matching grant.
And I think it's great because it's also when people buy those products, they're a product that they already want, but they feel like they're doing something for good for the world. It is consumerism for good. And the great thing is when you walk through a shopping mall, you actually see these displays for RED. And as Bill said, it reminds you that we're all still fighting this fight of HIV/AIDS.
Mm-hmm. Now, did I notice that the funds will also go to TB and malaria, as well as AIDS? I mean, there's been some talk that AIDS has received a lot of attention, but these other diseases not so much.
So this money goes to the Global Fund, and the Global Fund supports HIV/AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria. And the great thing by having this Global Fund is we've been able to bring the prices down of AIDS drugs. We've been able to bring bed net prices down $10. That's another thing that I often say to kids, if they want to give something back, take their allowance and go buy a $10 bed net online. So all of those tools, whether it's medicines or bed nets, are helping us fight all of those diseases.
Mm-hmm. And how are we doing on the front of AIDS? You mentioned children now have a much higher chance of surviving than they have at any point in recent history. Are you still seeing significant inroads in survivability from some of these diseases?
Yeah, the infection rates have come down and the number of people who die have come down. Now it's incremental progress, and so we do need some breakthrough tools. And our foundation, the U.S. government, a number of others are working on a vaccine that in the next 5 to 10 years, with any luck, we'll have that. And that would completely change the situation. In the meantime...
And this is for HIV?
Exactly.
Okay.
I mean, we're working, and for the other two diseases as well, but that's been the toughest one to get. But now we have over 20 million people who are alive that wouldn't have been without these drugs being donated.
And because of the Global Fund, I mean, the other important thing to say is 17 million people are alive. 17 million, it's huge. I mean, we go in the developing world today, there are bed nets there in so many homes, and they're being used properly. And so when we talk about these childhood deaths coming down, it's partly the vaccines, it's partly disease, but it's also malaria, the fact that those tools are effective.
Now, you mentioned before polio. It is now in 2 countries, but there's been challenges there. Pakistan, Afghanistan. There was a polio clinic that was out in Pakistan that was blown up the other day. How worried are you? How doable is it to actually accomplish eradication in these last 2 countries?
Well, 3 years ago, we had India, Nigeria, and Pakistan all looked pretty tough. Mm-hmm. And 2 of the 3 of those are now polio-free. So Pakistan is really committed to doubling down. Army resources are going in. Some cases go across the border into Afghanistan there. So we had a big drop. We had a third as many cases in the 2 countries in 2015 as we had the year before. So we're hopeful. We need some good execution and a little bit of luck, but it's possible the last case will be in 2016.
And also Afghanistan?
In the world, yeah.
In the world,
yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it's really just one epidemic. It's only a small part of Afghanistan that, because kids are going back and forth, the real center for it. And we do all this sewage sampling to really understand exactly where it's based. It's Pakistan where we still have the big problem.
And are these shots that you're giving to children, or how are you tackling this?
Yeah, it's this oral polio vaccine, which are actually drops. And we get 95% of the kids to have the drops 3 times, then the disease goes away. If it's much below that, then it's still spreading around. And so that's what India and Nigeria did. And in this very tough federal administered area, up by Peshawar. There we need to get those coverage levels up because the Army's there. We do get to most of the kids now, which we didn't before when that was an enclave.
And when it started to open up and the people were coming from the tribal regions down, literally parents were showing up at bus stops asking for polio drops. They knew about them, they want them for their children, and so that's a really great sign. And it shows that, you know, if you've got that demand, as long as we deliver it, and as Bill said, deliver it well, we can get this done.
So you think 2016 is a possibility?
Oh, it's a real possibility. It's not a guarantee.